What's up, Third Hall MMA? I'm your host, back at it with another video. Listen, it's finally over. The ESPN era is over. You guys might be able to tell by my voice I'm a little bit sick, but that's not gonna stop me from just ranting about the UFC. I mean, actually, it just gives me something to do other than sit here. So, we're gonna get after it with the picks. For the card this weekend, we got Manel and Royval. Actually, and the funny thing is, it's actually a solid Apex card, but it's still Apex slop to finish off the ESPN era, so clap it up. Congrats, UFC. The ESPN era dies where it began, in the fucking Apex, bro. God. But there's still Apex cards on Paramount, so that's pretty fucking stupid, but I don't know. It is what it is. But the main event is actually a sick fight. Royval Kape. If Manel wins, they might give him a title shot. If Royval wins, then, I think Tyra's going to get a title shot. And Kai Car France literally quit the sport so that they didn't give him Manel. So they have this. Kevin Vallejos is back in the co-main event. Cezary Olegzajuk, Mikhail's brother, at middleweight. What one of listen, this is one of the prospects I'm hyping up. All right, this is one of my favorite prospects in the sport, Mikhail's brother, and he's actually got a really tough matchup with Cesar Almeida. So that's actually a really underrated fight. Melky versus Morgan Charriere. This is also a really good outside the rankings contender fight at featherweight. Nzechiku and Buchecha. I think Buchecha, isn't he like the second greatest nogi grappler of all time? Or no, that's probably Craig, right? But Buchecha is one of the best jiu-jitsu players of all time. And Kennedy Nzechiku, I think what last time was just when Walter heel hooked him. So I don't know. Maybe Buchecha will take his heels this time. Bobby Green is back against who? Was this guy on the Contender Series? Look, let me check that apology. I don't know, but let's get into the fucking picks, bro. All right, first fight on the card. Ah, oh, dude, ESPN's so bad. Jamie Lynn Horth versus T. Bleda. Dude, I don't even know who T. Bleda is. She's from Czech Republic, though. Jamie Lynn Horth is from Canada. Teresa, okay. Based on that, I'm gonna go with the girl that's from Czech Republic. Tougher, more grit than people from Canada. She's 5'9", she's taller, and she's younger, 24 years old. Jamie Lynn Horth is 35. So yeah, we'll go with whatever Teresa Beletta. Who cares? Next fight, Alan Fry and Guilherme Pat. Never watched any of these dudes fight, but they're both undefeated heavyweights. Alan Fry's 27. Checking his record on Tapology right now. All knockouts. Yeah, literally all knockouts. Guilherme Pat. Checking his Tapology. Knockout in his last fight in LFA against a 4-4 guy, though. Going to a decision against a guy who doesn't even have a professional record. He was supposed to fight on the Contender Series and then didn't, and he's still just, getting a chance on the Apex card. He's 236 pounds. Alan Fry's 247 pounds. He's got more mass to him. I'll go with Alan Fry to get a knockout here. I think I've heard of him. He's a solid heavyweight prospect, so I'll go with him to get a knockout here. Now this is the matchup you guys have all been waiting for. Obviously, you guys know how much of a big fan of Melissa Croden I am, right? She won her debut on the Vancouver card, which was my first video, was a reaction to the Vancouver card. A couple months ago, she's already back against Luana Santos. Do not look up Luana Santos' dog on Twitter if you want to find out. You do you, but I'm going to go with Melissa Croden here. She's got a big physicality advantage against most of these females, and I think she's going to have a grappling advantage here. But this is probably going to be a typical women's MMA fight, but Melissa Croden just actually has sting on her punches, so I'm going to go with her to get it done. Oh my god, dude. I can't believe they're doing this to me. Women's fight, heavyweight fight, women's fight, heavyweight fight. Oh my fucking god. Steven Asplund, loose skin merchant. Steven Asplund versus Sean Sharaf. The loose skin. Now, Sean Sharaf lost by knockout to one of the Taffa bros in his last fight. And Steven Asplund, who'd he lose to? He lost to Denzel Freeman in LFA, but won on the Contender Series by knockout. I'm gonna go with Steven Asplund to get this one done. You see the loose skin, you know he's got grit, you know he, is tough enough to lose some weight. So we're gonna go with Steven Asplund to get this one done by knockout against Sean, who got knocked out by one of the Taffa bros in their last fight. In his last fight. Jeez, we're flying through these picks. They listen. Next fight on the card, you couldn't have an Apex card to close out the ESPN era without feeding Neil Magny to Yaroslav Amosov. Now, if you guys don't know, Yaroslav Amosov was, I think, an undefeated Bellator champion at welterweight. He's actually like a really good fighter. I think he's got a win over Roberto Soldic on the regional scene at one point, and he's 28-1. Who the fuck did he even lose to? Oh, he got knocked out by Jason Jackson. Yeah, that's tough. But he fought on CFFC Anaconda to Curtis Millender, who I think fought on the Contender Series at some point. Has a win over Douglas Lima and beat Logan Storley twice, which is also really good. Beat Ed Ruth, who's also really good at MMA. So yeah, Yaroslav Amosov is a really good MMA fighter. He's been champion in Bellator, and Neil Magny is 38 years old at this point. Neil Magny might cockroach Max and save his career by getting a win here. Maybe these Bellator guys just aren't good enough. Let me check the odds. Because getting knocked out by Jason Jackson is kind of cringe, you know what I'm saying? So maybe Amosov isn't ready, but he took like 2 years off after that, so he's probably been in the gym grinding on his skills. Yeah, he's minus 423. If you guys want to sprinkle some money on Neil Magny, my models have Neil Magny at about a plus 200, not a plus 335. So, there's a ton of value on Neil Magny here, money line, to cockroach Max and get this one done. Plus, he's bigger, probably he might honestly be stronger than Amosov in this fight. And I don't know. Do I pick Neil Magny, man? You know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna pick Neil. I'm talking myself into it. I'm picking Neil Magny to get this one done by TKO in like the third round. Fuck it, dude. Jason Jackson is knocking you out, Amosov. Nah, Neil Magny's a different level, brother. The UFC is different level. We're going with Neil Magny to get that one done. I know, crazy. Next fight, Brito is back versus Isaac Thompson. What? I don't believe he's actually 2-2. Okay, he's 9-2. Billion-dollar company can't put the guy's actual record on their website. He's 23 years old though. Isaac Thompson, Australian prospect, coming out of LFA, just won by split decision in his last fight. He's got 2 losses, one by knockout, one by split decision. He's taller, rangier. Brito short, stocky. He does have heat in his hands. If Brito does end up getting a takedown, he probably could beat him. But one thing I'm going to compare it to is the William Gomes fight. I've never watched Isaac Thompson fight, by the way, but he's 5'11". I'm assuming he's going to be a lot taller than Brito in the cage. So I think I'm going to go with Isaac. Fuck it. Fuck it. We ball. I'm shooting from the fucking half court here. Isaac Thompson's going to get this one done against Brito. Brito's on a 2-fight losing streak. Lost to Pat Sabatini. Lost to Gomes. That's the one I'm really looking at and worried about. That Isaac Thompson, if he's very fundamental with his boxing and keeps a jab on him and stays at range and has solid takedown defense, he's going to beat Joe Anderson Brito. Just like William Gomes did. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Isaac Thompson to get this one done. Fuck it. We ball as an underdog. Give me that. But obviously, there's a world where he comes out and he's just slow and his footwork is really slow and Brito just nukes him, right? Or he just double legs him and holds him down. So yeah, but I'm gonna go with Isaac to get this one done. That's a fun pick. We like to have fun on this channel. You know what I mean? We like to have fun on the channel. Next fight, Jillian Robertson versus Amanda Lemos. This is a real tough cookie matchup. Two tough cookies going at it to close out the ESPN era. I mean, what more could you guys ask for in the Apex? I mean, because obviously that's our favorite, right? What more could you fucking ask for from a $1 billion company that just got paid $7 billion? Am I right? Um, I'm gonna go with Jillian Robertson to get this one done. I think she's going to be able to take down Amanda Lemos and hold her down like she's been able to do to almost all her opponents. Not much technical analysis needs to be done here. I think she's going to be able to get takedowns, and if she does, she's going to win. If she doesn't, well, maybe she'll get knocked out, but I think she's going to be able to get takedowns, and if she gets takedowns, she'll win. Not really much to analyze there. Next fight, Bobby Green is back. Let's go. Bobby Green is back. He's back against Lance Gibson Jr. I think I've actually seen. I'm on his Tapology. I think I've actually watched Lance Gibson Jr. fight in Bellator before. Yeah, I have. He took a loss, like got by knockout 2 years ago to whoever Vladimir Tokov is, probably on steroids. Why can't we get that guy in the UFC? He just lost. Actually, he actually might have been in the UFC if he got a win. He lost. He lost like what? Wait, that guy he just got knocked out by lost like 3 weeks ago. Damn. But yeah. Anyway, Bobby Green. Bobby Green's the chinniest fighter in the sport. He got knocked out by a wheel kick that landed on his nose from Roofy. So I know Lance Gibson Jr. probably isn't gonna be UFC level, but he's gonna chin Bobby Green, dude. Like there's Bobby Green should just retire, dude. He's gonna get chinned in every single fight he has. But honestly, I don't know, man. Do I stick with the narrative that Bellator is trash? Because I mean, I literally just picked Neil Magny to beat Amasov. So like, I don't know. Do we just like pick against Bellator fighters? Is Bobby Green gonna have a vintage performance here and start piecing up Lance Gibson Jr.? Because if I am not mistaken, I think he's kind of slow on the feet. Let me check. We just watch some of his footwork. This is at a catch weight of 160, by the way. So there's that. Maybe Bobby Green not cutting as much weight is gonna help him, be able to take some better punches. But I don't even know what the fuck I'm supposed to analyze here. Let's watch this footwork. Nah, he's fainting at range. Southpaw. Nah, Lance is gonna knock him out. Yeah, he's good enough to knock out Bobby Green. Because all you got, like, honestly, all you got to do is touch Bobby Green, you'll knock him out. Like that's the thing. And Lance is big enough. He's powerful enough. I think he'll get a knockout here in his debut. And yeah, that's it. I'm gonna go with Lance to get a knockout. Sorry, Bobby Green. I did want to pick Bobby Green though. But Lance is an underdog too, so you want to sprinkle some money on Lance to get a knockout. Hey, I didn't tell you to. Next fight on the card, Buchecha versus Kennedy and Nzechukwu. Now, funny thing about Buchecha is he did lose his UFC debut to what's his face, Martin Buday. Pretty embarrassing if you ask me, but I'm not gonna lie. I thought that was a robbery. Honestly, did I thought that was 100% a robbery. I thought Buchecha won the first round and won the second round, dude. So I thought he was actually like outstriking Martin Buday in the first round. Well, like, I mean, obviously nobody watching this actually watched that fight, but I thought he got robbed in his last fight, and they cut Buday after that, which makes no sense because he just won. But I still think Buchecha is a solid MMA prospect. And Kennedy Nzechukwu just got his heel torn off by Walter Walker in his last fight. Like, I mean, is it gonna be Buchecha by heel hook, dude? I mean, maybe. Fuck it, yeah, I'm gonna go with Buchecha to get a heel hook on Kennedy Nzechukwu. That's that's what I'm going with. Get a submission win, bounce back from a devastating loss, and end up doing it in style. Because Kennedy Nzechukwu, I don't think he has the jiu-jitsu. He's not gonna be completely outsizing him. Now, I will say, yes, if this fight if this fight takes place with extended periods of time on the feet, he's gonna chin him, right? Kennedy Nzechukwu is gonna chin Marcus Buchecha if they spend more than a minute on the feet. But we're throwing from the half court. It's the last fucking Apex card of the ESPN era. We'll throw up some half court picks, man. Buchecha by submission. Lock that shit in. See how we do. You know, fuck it. I mean, obviously the correct pick is probably he's gonna get chinned, right? But he's coming. Kennedy's coming back so quick from that heel hook loss. I don't know, man. I know jujitsu doesn't work either, but I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll go Buchecha to get the submission. Melky versus Morgan Charrier, the Pirate. This is actually a really sick fight. Expect this fight to be a war. Um, expect Melky Costa to be ripping body kicks on Charrier. Expect Charrier to be looking for his right hand. He's going to be jabbing. Probably will rock Melky in moments in this fight, and I I actually don't know who to pick here. This is a really tough fight to pick. They have it evens on the odds, and for good reason, because I don't even know who the fuck to pick. Melky's on a run. He just beat Arosa, right? In a war. And he beat C-Rod in a war. And he beat Andre Fili by guillotine. Lost to Steve Garcia, though. Charrier, I don't even know. Like, he beat Nate Landwehr in his last fight. And then he lost to Nathaniel Wood. And a split decision to Shep Mariscal. I'm gonna go with Charrier to. I'll go with Charrier, yeah, because I think Melky's really hittable in the boxing, and I think Charrier has good enough boxing to be able to take advantage of that. And I don't think Melky's gonna be able to get any takedowns. If he does, sorry, I was wrong. He's gonna probably submit him if he gets takedowns, but I think Charrier has a good enough takedown defense to neutralize the jiu-jitsu game of Melky, and I think his boxing's good enough to be able to land big shots on him. So yeah, we'll go with Morgan Charrier to get this one done by knockout. But this is going to be a war if it stays on the feet for a while, which I think it will. So yeah, this is a really good fight. UFC putting together a solid card here. Damn, bro, 18 minutes? We are flying through these fucking picks. I gotta slow down. I'll slow down for the main event. Trust. I'll give you guys a full real breakdown for the last fight of the ESPN era. But this one, Cezary Oleksiejczuk versus Cesar Almeida. Now, Cezary Oleksiejczuk, coming off the Contender Series, got a knockout. He's 25. He has 3 losses, but 2 of them were early in his career, one by a guillotine and one by a decision. And his other loss was to Alibeg Rasulov, who is in one championship right now. I think he just fought Christian Lee and lost. He did, but Christian Lee is one of the best fighters outside the UFC in the sport. And Cezary lost to him 2 years ago when he was 23. So a lot of time to improve for Cezary Oleksiejczuk. And Cesar Almeida, I think he's coming off his KO of Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Beat Ihor Poteri, but lost to Roman Kopylov by getting taken down a bunch. I remember that fight. It was on the Islam Makhachev and Dustin Poirier card, so and he's shorter than Cesare in this fight, so and I think Cesare is just one of the best prospects in the sport, guys. You're gonna want to tune in to watch this guy fight. I think he's gonna win. By what? Because I think he's gonna have a really big advantage in the grappling if he chooses to take it there. And in the striking, honestly, I think he could still chin Cesar Almeida unless he gets caught with that left hook. Because I know Cesar Almeida trains with Alex Pereira, but I think I'm gonna go with Cesario Alexejek to get this one done. Yeah, fuck it. He's one of the best prospects in the sport. I don't see why not. Co-main event. Already on the co-main event. Only 20 minutes in. Giga Chikadze versus Kevin Vallejos. Now, you guys know how much of a fan we are of Kevin Vallejos. Well, maybe you don't, but Kevin Vallejos is the truth, dude. All right? Everyone's saying he's exactly like a mini Taporia, and he kinda is. His boxing is so crisp. He lands solid calf kicks. His only loss is to Gene Silva on the Contender Series 2 years ago when he was 22 years old, and that was a competitive decision. Think about it for a second. Giga Chikadze just lost to Arnold Allen, but I think he and lost to David Onama as well, and missed weight for that. So he's on a bit of a skid in his career, and he's 37. I don't know, how his chin's gonna hold up with how tough the weight cut is for him. I know he has really good kicks. I know his striking is actually quite high level, but I think he's too hittable on the feet, and I think Kevin Vallejos, in the first round, I think he's gonna be stuck at range. He might lose the first round, right? He's gonna be sitting at range, trying to, find a way to work his entries, try to figure out how he can land on Giga, because Giga is a lot taller than him, but I think he is gonna be able to figure it out without getting head kicked or something. And I think he's going to be able to catch a Giga and probably TKO him. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Kevin Vallejos to knock out Giga Chikadze. I know Giga's tough. His Calvin Kattar fight, he was somehow able to survive that. But, again, another example, Calvin Kattar, he's got Kevin Vallejos' boxing is a lot crisper than Calvin Kattar's, in my opinion. So, and Giga got messed up by Calvin Kattar's boxing. So, I just think Kevin Vallejos is going to be too athletic to be just standing at range, getting tagged. I think he's going to be able to work his way inside and land maybe a right hand over the top, and Giga's going to go down, and Kevin's going to pounce on him and get the finish. Neither the second or third round, though. I don't think it'll be in the first round. If it is, then, good for Kevin Vallejos, but I think it'll be a third round knockout. We'll go third round knockout. And we made it. Main event. Last fight of the ESPN era. In the Apex, I mean, it's almost enough to make me cry, man. It really is. I mean, let's just take a minute to reminisce on all the great Apex slop. Barber versus Blanchfield fight night. Fight nights like Barber Blanchfield. Fight nights like Manel versus Asu Amabayev. Fight nights like, dude, I don't even know. But you get my point, just, take some time, reminisce on the Apex slop. Because it was a good run. It was fun while it lasted, and I know Paramount's going to continue with the Apex cards, which is pretty stupid, because nobody likes them, but it is what it is, right? I mean, how could we forget Fluffy Hernandez versus Roman Dolidze? I mean, come on, how could we forget Tatsuro Taira and Hyunsung Park, right? I mean, how can we forget the Gilbert Burns Michael Morales fight night this year? How can we forget the Gilbert Burns versus Sean Brady fight night, man? I mean, legendary moments happen in the Apex all the time. It's sad that this is going to be the last ESPN Plus one. They actually have this on ESPN 2, which is funny. because nobody watches that shit if it's only on ESPN Plus. But this is actually a really good fight, and this card is actually like kind of solid. I'm not gonna lie. Vittori Delidze 2 fight night. Who could have forgot that one? But anyway, I'm gonna stop yapping and analyze the fight. I'm going with Manel. I know Royval's a dog. I know he's been the number one contender. He only loses to Pantoja and Josh Van, but and I know he can bounce back. But I think Manel, if Manel has 5 rounds to work, like it's a question of can Royval overwhelm Manel with volume and catch him and get him and polish him off, right? Because I think at a distance, I think Manel's going to be moving around on the outside. He's going to be waiting for Royval to come in. He's going to be countering. He's going to be looking to counter. He's going to try to slow the pace down. And Royval got dropped in his last fight with Van, got drug into a war, right? And that didn't work out so well for him. And I think Manel is high level enough in the striking to where Royval can't just like overwhelm him with pressure and put the pace on him and get him done. And another thing is Manel, a lot bigger than Josh Van, right? So like Josh Van was having a lot of problems with Royval with the height. I think Manel same reach on these guys. Manel's a bit taller. They say he's 5'5". I think he's probably like more like 5'6" or 5'7". So there's that as well. He's going to be able to land better on Brandon Royval than Josh Van did from a distance. And obviously his boxing isn't going to be as crisp or as tight, but his eyes are going to be a lot better than Josh as well. I don't think he's going to be getting hit as much as Josh Van did against Brandon Royval. So yeah, I think Manel is going to start out slow, slowly work his way into range, piece up Brandon Royval a bit, and I'm going to go with Manel to get a TKO in like the 4th or 5th round on Royval. I know that's a tough ask, but I think that's just how I see this fight playing out. And if Royval wants to mix in the grappling, I mean, that's not going to work. Manel's takedown defense is insane. So yeah, I'm going to go with Manel to get this one done, get a knockout late, and try to assert himself as the new number one contender besides Tyra. Maybe if he wins, you guys can make the UFC can make that fight, Manel versus Tatsuro Tyra. Um, Now there is a chance Royval wins here. Like he has a really good chance at winning as well. Like I could just be wrong and he just goes in there, dogs Manel, overwhelms him with volume, and ends up beating him up over 5 rounds. Especially with the small cage in the apex, nobody talks about the size of the cage. That does play a big part, but I think Manel's footwork is good enough to not get backed up like that, and I think he's powerful enough, and his eyes are good enough to avoid most of the strikes coming at him from a distance. And I think he's going to be able to be landing counters. And Royval got dropped in his last fight with Van, right? So I think Manel's a lot more powerful than Josh. And if Manel can drop Brandon Royval and hurt him, he's gonna end up winning this fight because he's gonna be patient. He's gonna be calculated. Maybe he hits him with the 1-2 eye poke special. Am I right? Maybe he hits him with a few nut shots. Everyone's saying he's the biggest cheater in the sport. By the way, that Aso Mabaya fight, I don't think that was that bad, but yeah, I just think Manel's gonna make his reads and work his way into the fight and polish Brandon Royval off late. Because that's the thing, like Royval's chin got cracked by Van pretty much. He almost got finished at the end of the fight. I know the dude's in insane shape, so his recovery is crazy, but you take a lot of damage like that and you come back. Um, it's tough. And this was the original fight that it was supposed to be. This was supposed to be the original fight instead of Josh Van versus Royval anyway, right? So Manel's been preparing for this. He's had 2 training camps for this. He's going to be locked in more than Royval is, and I think he's going to get it done. So yeah, there you go. Those are the picks. Like and subscribe. I got finals tomorrow, so wish me luck on those. I think I'm gonna look ahead to the first quarter of 2026 for the UFC tomorrow. I think that'd be a good video to post up for some Friday content. That's why I didn't do it yesterday, because Wednesday, Friday, you got to play the algorithm a little bit, guys. But yeah, that's it for the video. Third Hall MMA host signing out. Look at that, 30 minutes exactly.